In Genesis 37:9, we read of Joseph's dream. He dreamed yet another dream and told it to his brethren and said, "Behold, I have dreamed yet a dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 6 stars made obeisance to me. They bowed down." And he told it to his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him and said unto him, "What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brother indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth?" It can be seen later that in part this dream is fulfilled because his brothers do go to Egypt and bow before him as the second in command of Egypt. And later his father comes to him and also recognizes his higher office. But his mother, Rachel, never came to Egypt, because even as Joseph is having this dream, supposedly his mother, Rachel, died in childbirth, giving birth to Benjamin. What's going on here? So the question is, when the dream is fulfilled, what are the sun and the moon? Where is his mother bowing down to him in some way? She's dead already. And in fact, what we find here is the lying pen of the scribes. They have been busy editing and changing the story, but part of the truth remains, because either Father fulfills his prophetic dream that he gave to Joseph, and every part must be fulfilled, or this is all just made up garbage. It's meaningless because his mother is dead. Why even have her in the dream? Why would his father even mention that it's his mother that would bow down to him? It's not possible if she is dead. And therein is part of the answer. Rachel is not dead. And Rachel does go to Egypt. And so this is fully fulfilled. Completely. There's yet a higher prophetic meaning to our time now. But you can't understand that until you see that Rachel did not die. Rachel did not give birth to Benjamin. It's the other woman, her sister, who gave birth to Benjamin and died. Why have the scribes done this? Why have they changed it? Well, we'll see that there are many things that they have changed. And to hide the continuing pattern from the garden in Eden forward to the coming of the two witnesses, Father always sends two. I mean, his law is a matter's not confirmed unless there are 2 or 3 witnesses. So he must always send a minimum of 2. Let me quote now from Jeremiah 8:8, and I'll back up one verse. In verse 7, "Even the stork in the sky knows her appointed seasons, and the dove and the swift and the thrush observe the time of their migration. But my people do not know the requirements of the Creator." Verse 8, "How can you say we are wise, for we have the law of the Creator, when actually the lying pen of the scribes has handled it falsely? The wise will be put to shame. They will be dismayed and trapped." This is telling us that the scriptures, now this is prophet Jeremiah, and he is telling us that the scriptures have been altered. You think you know the truth. You think you know the law and the things that are prophetically to come about, and the scribes have gone in and changed things. They are the enemy within, in cahoots with the adversaries, doing this, subtly bringing the people down, which we see through the rest of the Old Testament. Israel was brought down because the truth was kept from them by the scribes and what they did. So what we're finding now with Joseph's dream is that Father has left pieces for us to find evidence of these lies that will point us in a direction to finding the truth. And Father says, let us come together and let us reason. We must use the minds that he gave us to reason through these things and to logically come to find things. We must become as forensic police officers who study a crime scene, and from their detailed looking at the evidence, they're able to determine certain things, which then allows them to put forth hypotheses of what probably took place. And so then they go look for things to back that up. And that's what we're doing here with the scriptures. One must come to understand the scriptures have been altered. If you don't have that understanding, you're never going to see these things. But we know that a crime has taken place. The words have been altered by the scribes. We have the warning. And when the two witnesses came 2,000 years ago, they came and presented the same evidence. And they presented a message so different that the people were astounded, because it didn't match up with what their scriptures said. It didn't match up with what their priests and their scribes were telling them the scripture said, even what those who could read, even when they're reading. It had been altered. And if you don't know this, you're deceived. That's the whole point of being deceived. You don't know it. If you knew it was wrong, you wouldn't be deceived. So, looking back at the story that we have, we are following just one brother, and he supposedly marries two sisters. Now, if one logically looks at this, in the scripture there's a warning. The same scriptures, Father warns that a man is not to marry a wife and then also marry his sister. And yet this is what is supposedly going on with one of the patriarchs. This doesn't add up. We reasonably be saying something's wrong here. Second, in Acts, it is said that one of the requirements of an apostle is that they have one wife only. And the only times we see polygamy going on is with these stories going back with the patriarchs. What's going on here? Is it supposed to be one wife, or can you have as many as you wish? And the answer is that it's the lying pen of the scribes again. You are to only have one wife. So the one we have known as Jacob married only one of the sisters. And we have known her as Leah. His brother, which the scribes have obfuscated, have removed the significance of the one we've known as Jacob, his brother, they've named him Esau. Again, a corruption. And yet, even in that corruption, it speaks to us pieces of truth, because he is referred to as the red. Esau refers to Edom as red. And so his brother was actually just as righteous as the one we've known as Jacob. Now, their names have been changed, but this is how we recognize who I'm talking about, so I'll continue to use the names for brevity. Esau and Jacob went to Laban to find their wife. Rachel was the more desirable one, and Jacob thought that that's who he was going to marry. And then we find out that he has married Leah. He's already married. He has a wife. The story's over and done with. It's his brother, the one we've known as Esau, who then labors his 7 years to get his wife. And he is the one who marries Rachel. Now, how can I back this up? How can you back all these things up when the scripture has been altered? It's like, how do you go to a crime scene and start to present what you think happened without having, the person telling you that they did the crime? You have to deduce it, and we can't point to any scripture to show this. But we know from Jeremiah 8:8, the lying pen of the scribes has been at work to keep us from knowing the truth. So again, Rachel is alive. Rachel did only have 2 sons. They have changed who they are. But you can see Reuben is the first son born. And it's not to Leah, it is to Rachel. Rachel and Esau had the son Reuben. Rachel then cannot conceive for a long time, and she finally then bears Joseph. Joseph's meaning of his name is the son is added. That means there was already a son. How can you add a son if there isn't one already there? But you can see in the name, there is part of the clue of what's going on here. There was a son born to Rachel and Esau prior to Joseph, and that is Reuben. Now with this, I have a little bit of scripture to back this up, because when we look at the account of Joseph being sold into slavery by his brother and cousins, more so his cousins, because we'll see that his cousins are the sons of Jacob and Leah are the ones who sell him into slavery. It is Reuben who comes to the defense of his brother. Not a cousin here, they are full brothers. He comes to his defense. And you'll see this throughout the story. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense until you realize they are full brothers. And because he loves his brother, there is a stronger connection with brothers than there is between cousins. This is why he does the things and says the things he does in that storyline. There's more evidence in Scripture that backs up some of the things that I'm saying here, especially with the 2 brothers. Now, I won't go into it, but just point to it. The messenger that came to Jacob in the middle of the night, and they wrestled, and then something happens to his inner thigh. This whole story is about him and his brother Esau, and the discovering of the deception that he did to his father. It is discovered by his brother Esau, and he makes Jacob come to grips with what he did and actually do what he faked so that he could enter into covenant. Getting back to the main point of this video, Rachel is alive, and it's Leah that died. Leah died in giving birth to Benjamin. And we see in a number of scriptures about Benjamin that we are warned about Benjamin. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. There's the story of what a city of Benjamin did to the man and his wife, raping her all through the night. This is done in Benjamin, and the rest of the tribes come up against Benjamin. What's going on here? Why is Benjamin's original name in English translated over son of my sorrow? This is what Leah wanted to name him, son of my sorrow. But then later, supposedly, it gets changed to son of my right hand, which is what Benjamin means. Why is he called that by Leah? Why is he called son of my sorrow? Because this son came about by an act of violence, by a rape. The whole Diana story has been altered by the scribes, and it is Leah who is raped. And Leah becomes pregnant from that rapist. And that child she dies in giving birth to is Benjamin. This is why his name is son of my sorrow, because he came about from a rape. Benjamin is not a legitimate tribe. He is an adopted tribe. And we see reference to that in Paul's letters, because Paul's the one who talks about being adopted, because he knows full well Benjamin was adopted into the tribes. He's not a son born from one of the two brothers, Jacob or Esau. So the son who Esau keeps behind and doesn't allow to go is actually Reuben. Reuben's the one who stays behind because Reuben's the only son that Esau has left because Joseph was taken. And it is Reuben who tries to get his father to let him go. And you can see that discussion there in the scriptures. It's Reuben who is trying to reason with his father to let him go. And his father eventually listens to him, and he does return. He does go to see his brother in Egypt to get them the food that they need. I will add that there were no concubines that bore sons to either of the brothers, because that's against the law. You're supposed to only have one wife, unless your first wife dies. And that's not what's in the story. These are scribe-written stories put in to come up with a total of 12 tribes. There were only 7 tribes. The last son born is Joseph. He is the 7th son, which makes it very important. The 7th son born between the 2 brothers, Jacob and Esau. So to sum up this first video dealing with the physical fulfillment of Joseph's dream, Joseph's mother and father, along with his brother and his cousins, the stars, the sun and the moon, do come to Egypt and do bow to him as the second in command of Egypt. So this is fulfilled on that level. In a future video, in the next part 2, I will show the higher fulfillment of this pertaining to end time events.